Welcome in wherever you're viewing today's show, citywide, statewide, nationwide. It is the Line to Gain show. We are officially Line to Gain here on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. I am the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski. She is Sara Larson, and we are back Thursday, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, right here on the Rumblings Network to bring to you the latest in football news, not only college but pro, but it's off season, so we're
Yeah.
mainly discussing the Bills right now as we'll morph into some college football as we get closer to the start of the season. But not too much going on other than
Rumor mills.
a mass frenzy of speculation.
Yeah,
And
I love it. I think it's fun. I think if you're going to do anything in the off season, why not have a little fun with it?
exactly, I think that our fan obviously this is a fan base that is thirsting. We have a massive craving for another dynamic, big playmaking wide receiver. Today, the rumor mill started. A person that's been at the forefront of a lot of speculation, DeAndre Hopkins. Those rumors started rolling again today. And Sara, I don't know if you got to see much of it on Twitter, but there
Yeah.
was some pretty funny stuff.
It was. I went out to dinner last night when it kind of started, and my family's down from New York, so we went out to dinner, and they don't give a crap about anything to do with football, really. So, my sister though was getting a kick out of it. I'm explaining to her what's going on, and she's cracking up laughing. She's like, everyone's stalking their, social media pages. I was like, yeah, it's kind of going nuts, and she was actually getting a kick out of the whole thing. She was like, why are you smiling? Why are you laughing? What do you do? Like, and I'm like, because this is happening and this is happening. Again, it makes for a fun off season. Um, obviously this week we've decided to do the rebrand. So everyone got a little taste of the new video that's going to be our intro video. It's not finished yet, so bear with us. I decided to upload it anyways today, so that we didn't just kind of come in with dead air.
Right.
But I'm excited. Having us have the whole rebrand and it's I can't believe it's been 4 months,
Well, I
since we
think the hardest
started.
thing, and props to Sarah, okay, because believe me, she's the mastermind behind this operation. She's the one that does most of the work. I'm just old and lazy and kind of ride
Stop.
her coattails, but she's done a wonderful job. And as you know, we started this thing with three people, and shortly thereafter, we were hit with our third member was going to leave the show, and we're sitting here and we're going, we want to we think we can do this together. We don't need to bring in a third person. We think we do a good enough job. We got a good rapport and all that. But I think Sara will tell you, I don't think you understand how hard it is to find a name for a vidcast or a podcast that has not been taken by
Yeah.
somebody else. It
And
is
technically
unbelievable.
technically Line to Gain has been used, but it hasn't been used in years. So
Okay.
I still couldn't just get Line to Gain as a name on Twitter and stuff. I had to put spaces in between it and underscores. It's pretty crazy. You have, someone else owns it at this point with one follower. It's really annoying. But yeah,
Right.
it's been a process, and it's been fun, and I have a marketing background my past life. So it's been fun kind of creating all the graphics and I've been working on the video, and um it kind of keeps my hands involved in some stuff when I would otherwise be a little bored with the off season, not with nothing happening and everything. But so yeah, so how have you been? We haven't really chit chat much.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I'm just it's terrible weather down here. Lots of rain. It's gotten kind of cold. It's funny in Oklahoma. The old joke: if you wait 5 minutes, you're going to get a whole nother weather system, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
have this thing changes all the time down here, and we've had real cold weather. Then we started getting really warm weather. Now we got a bunch of rain. We do usually tend to get quite a bit of rain in the spring, flood the lakes out, and then get them back to normal by the time 4th of July or even Memorial Day comes around. But no, I've just been working all that. I'm kind of just running my deal. You're the one that's got all the stuff going on down there. Got family in town, and that's why I like
Yeah.
these. That's kind of why I like these off season shows. Gives everybody a chance to just kind of relax a little bit. talk about the news at hand. We will get into some of the stuff going on with Buffalo here in a minute. Obviously, they signed another offensive lineman. I'd like to hear Sarah's opinion of that or comments of that, since we talked about left guard, right guard. Now we got another guy to throw into the mix. But obviously, you got a lot of people in town, so you're trying to juggle all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and actually you were joking about how your weather has been bad. Well, mine was bad. I think last week I said how cold I was. It finally got back into the 80s. So like yesterday we went out to dinner and I was actually able to wear a tank top, not have to wear a big huge, sweater and freeze my butt off. Today we sat by the pool for a couple of hours
Ooh.
at their hotel and I got to watch my niece, play in the water. The water was too cold, didn't touch it. But, had a blast doing all that stuff, but, still have my phone next to me because I was hoping and praying that we were going to have something come, to fruition today. But unfortunately, I think the biggest news was that we, signed David Edwards to
Yep,
a
David Edwards.
1 year contract. And then yesterday, I think it was that we re-signed Questenberry to 1 year.
Right.
Um, so I think that, we needed depth. I think that Tommy Doyle is going to come back. Um, so, whether or not he will be effective as a backup or the depth. I think that it's nice to have these people come in here and push. Most of these guys aren't going to make the final roster, but we need camp bodies. We call them every year, and there's going to be a couple people that surprise us. Everyone thought that OJ Howard was going to be a shoe in last year, and he wasn't. He was cut, after training camp. So one of these guys is going to surprise us. And I mean, I think we were all surprised when Bobby Hart made the team last year. Um, I honestly think that he'll be back again. I think that there's no reason why, if it's not at least practice squad. But we'll re-sign him for at least camp.
But think about it this way, Sarah. Okay, so you go ahead, you start with Snowman, right? Then you roll to McGovern, and then you got Bates, then you got Morris, then you've got Brown, you've got Edwards. You have to figure you're going to have a higher level draft pick in there. So there's seven. Then you got Quisenberry, who just resigned, as eight. That's eight already.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I think
so
you're missing one.
um,
I'm trying to
I went
think.
Bates, McGovern, Edwards, Brown, Dawkins, Morris. We're going to have a high level draft pick as a
Doyle
rookie.
and then Mance.
Right. But what I'm saying is, how many are we going to keep on the roster?
I think we'll keep 9. We
Right.
usually keep
So
9.
there's going to be some people that you think are going to be here. There's going to be. I don't think it's going to be tough. Like if I was a free agent or a later round pick as an offensive lineman, after what they've done now in the preseason, and I don't know if I would really want to come to Buffalo, because it seems like they've done what I kind of wanted them to do. I'm not real happy with the fact we picked another guard up. I'd like to have picked up a tackle. I know they feel that Quisenberry is that guy that maybe they can't find somebody in free agency that
I
is
thought
as good as
Edwards is
him.
both. I thought Edwards could swing from both.
Yeah, but I, I want to tackle. I want a true tackle. Now,
Yeah.
granted, these guys that Bean wants and that Cromer wants, they're all 6'5" plus or 6'4". They're longer guys. I think Edwards is what? He's or is it Andrew? What's my man's name from that we
Edwards,
just said?
David
Edwards.
Edwards.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
He's 6'6", I think. 6'5", 6'6". So 309. Another long type body.
Yeah.
But the deal is, oh yeah, and Roy says in the comments,
Yep. Butker.
Bodeger's,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like Butker. So there's going to be some people moving on, but I still think we're guard heavy, we're inside heavy. So what does that mean? I mean, are we at the point where you pick up two guards and now all of a sudden you're
My
looking maybe to make a move in there somewhere where people
yeah.
have said no, it's not going to happen? I don't
I think
know.
my opinion is they're not sure at guard, so they're picking up the depth pieces to kind of check it out. And I think they feel pretty confident in Dawkins and Doyle, backing them up. And then on the other side they have, Brown, they have Questenberry. And again, I had Edwards as, rotational where he could play inside and out. So we'll see how it happens.
I don't know. I well, yeah, we will see. Obviously, he's another one that's had some issues with concussion, like our starting center, Mitch Morris. But I do like this. And before we get into the speculation of Hopkins and some of these other guys, I really do like what our football team is doing right now. We are picking up some key veteran type players. You know, Edwards comes to the mix. We picked up Damian Harris, the running back from the Patriots, which I think that's a great move. I like him quite a bit. You know, we've already picked up Sherfield. So there's some guys and there's those types of pieces. Maybe they're not superstars, but they're reliable vets that can give you good minutes and good plays,
Right.
and they'll help our football team.
Right. And last week we did talk about the fact that Isaiah McKenzie was going to be due the $250,000, and there was a good chance he'd be cut the next day.
Right.
He was. He has now been signed by Indianapolis, so he already has a new home. Um, who else? I think was signed today. Crowder was signed
Yeah,
by
Crowder.
the Giants, and Tommy Sweeney also.
Yes.
So I actually like that because I feel like Tommy Sweeney always ends up on the team, even though we don't really use him. So I feel like now we can actually focus on getting a tight end to complement Knox, whether it's in the draft or somebody in free agency. Obviously, everyone wants these big name guys, but we might just find a diamond in the rough in the draft. This is a good draft for tight ends. So you can find somebody in mid to late rounds that's going to, have an impact if we play them. So I'm actually, glad that that it's just Morris and Knox right now on the roster for tight end, because that gives us a chance to actually upgrade at that position as well, for the depth piece there. Um,
But
all
do you
right,
go
well,
ahead, or are we going to go ahead and try to find flex off the ball type tight ends, or are we going to try to find a true blue end of the line tight end?
I think we need a blocking tight end to complement Knox,
Right.
but that can also catch, when the time comes. I feel like, yeah, I keep on going back to Darnell Washington,
Yeah.
out of Georgia. Um, the fact that he's just he that's what he did at Georgia. He blocked, but then every catch drill that he did, and granted it's a drill, but at the combine he was ridiculous,
I was
and
just
they
going
were
to make that comment.
yeah,
My man
well,
had one catch filmed. They caught it on film, and now it's like
I'm not even
everybody's in
talking about
love
just
with him.
that one catch. I watched some videos of people, that were, recording him and stuff like that. He can catch the ball. And obviously after I saw that, I went back and watched some Georgia film. When he is throwing the ball, he is very good at it. So he has a really good touch. So and he's massive. So I think that it would be good, especially if we can put him on the right side when we're, very concerned about whether or not, Spencer Brown, and or Quessenberry, whoever is on the right side at the time, to give them help when needed.
But if we're worried about giving them help, we need to go ahead and find another tackle.
And I think we will. I just don't think that they'll start year one. I feel like, I really do feel that the Bills want to bring somebody in and develop them, quote unquote develop them, which they never do in the first year. It's almost like they take the first year off from doing it. And then, he'll be in there, for if Brown doesn't work out, or they'll put him in as a depth piece because Questenberry's only on a 1 year deal.
Well, we had some comments. Daryl Fletcher says, he agrees Washington's like a small O lineman. I'd rather have a tight end. I don't want another small O lineman.
But he can
Let's.
catch the ball. I
I
mean, like,
understand
the
what he's
2
saying.
I
I
mean, the
get it.
2 tight end sets that we could have
I
with him,
get it.
people would be so, like,
USC's not going to run a
ugh.
two tight end set.
Yes, and everyone complained last year when
There
I
was
said the
nothing.
same
They should
thing.
have run it with Quentin Morris. There's nothing
The
wrong with him.
I said the same thing last year when I saw it at camp, and everyone was like, and I guess appeared on a couple of different pods, and I was like, they were running 2 tight end sets at camp. I think they want to do it. They just never felt comfortable enough having Morris out on the field like that.
But the problem is the best thing about a two tight end set is not the passing game. The best thing about a two tight end set is the running game because it adds extra gaps that the defense has to defend. So if
I
you
like
really
it.
talk to offensive linemen or coordinators that are O-line type guys, they're going to tell you that they call it ace formation. They love ace because two tight ends make extra gaps, means more defensive players have to come down in the box to play the run. So I don't know. I'm a Quentin Morris fan. I don't know how you can sit there and say he does.
I'm a Quentin Morris fan too. I
They
just
never
don't
put him in.
I don't feel like that they had the confidence of putting him in there. And I think that we're quick that when one person makes a mistake, that it was kind of like we pull them and we don't give them another chance. So if you drop a pass or something like that, I don't even feel like we gave him the chance. I feel like he was only active a couple of games where he was actually in the game. So, but anyways, we
But
digress.
the thing is, and I will say this: it's not the fact that they weren't comfortable with Morris. Your quarterback is not a two tight end set quarterback. He's not. That's not his gig. I don't believe. So I think it's more the quarterback than it was the tight ends. But go ahead. You can.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think Josh can do whatever Josh puts his mind to doing. Honestly, I think that it just needs to be part of what is schemed into the game. And I think Dorsey started to try to open up the playbook, and I honestly believe that the playbook was too hard, and that's why they scaled it back. And I honestly believe that they did that not only because it was too hard, but because Josh didn't have any confidence in the line anymore. So you can tell the difference between the start of the season and the end of the season. The more he became annoyed, or whatever it was with the line, the injury affected him and everything else. I honestly think that they started pulling things back, and it was kind of like, Josh, go out there and do whatever the heck you can do, and try to get us a first down. I just rewatched the Miami game today. I turned
Which
on when I
one?
got home. I turned on the second one. I'm not ever reliving the horror of being in the 110 degrees and in September ever again. I was there in person and it was ridiculous. But it was on the NFL Network when I got home, and it was literally just, Josh, do what you can. And some of these things that he was doing, like, you can tell it was, the play was broken down, and he was just doing whatever he physically could do to, to get somebody open, to whatever. And I think that that's my biggest complaint on not only the line but the wide receivers is, I think that the frustration gets to them sometimes. The line gives up, and we've seen plenty of video of that happening, and the wide receivers are never stop. They always stop working. They never come back to the ball. And other than Diggs, I think that's my biggest complaint with our wide receivers. And last week we got into a little discussion about
Oh, I've got all kinds of discussions right now. Go ahead.
we got into a little discussion about wide receivers, and I made the comment that I think that we still need a slot guy, and I still think we need a boundary guy. And you were like, "No, we just need tons of slot guys. We already have the outside guys." And I didn't push you on it. And afterwards, I kept on like getting so frustrated in my head. I was like, I needed to push him on it, because yes, we have boundary guys, but we need an upgrade at number 2. I am firmly in belief that we need, I don't want 15 boundary guys to be signed to the roster. No, I want one that is an upgrade over Davis. I think Davis would be great as the backup, or if we have a 4 wide receiver set out there, he is going to be a mismatch on whatever corner or safety or linebacker, whoever he ends up having to be matched up against, because we have 4 wide receivers out there. And I think that it'll be ridiculous. So I still think, that's why I want Hopkins or Judy or Claypool. I want one more upgrade at the boundary.
All right, I have a couple deals, and
Okay.
I would take I like Hopkins. I would take Hopkins. He's one of my favorite players. But if our offense, and by the way, I love the Bills fans' perception of Josh Allen. It's kind of like the movie Tombstone. Have you ever seen Tombstone?
I have, but it's
And
been a
they have
while.
the scene where they're caught in the crossfire by the creek, by the river, and finally Wyatt he just says, he starts screaming and walks in the middle of the river, and he just starts shooting, and he shoots everybody, and then later on they're sitting up leaning up against a tree, and old boy says, have you seen Wyatt? And and Doc Holliday goes, you might want to check down by the creek, I heard he's walking on water. That is our perception of Josh Allen. Like, I think people honestly believe that he walks on water and that he
Uh-huh.
can touch the sick and heal them, and that on the third day he
No
was
lies told.
resurrected from the tomb. Like in a couple weeks, we're going to have a holiday that is directed towards him. I kid, but the fact of the matter is that he did not play great football last year. Okay,
He was injured.
if you want to pin, there you go. There's an excuse, right? He was injured. There's always an excuse. We're going to pull videos out of context. I don't see the whole play. I see one little part of it, and then we're going to make a million comments about how the offensive line is lazy and doesn't finish plays, or all these different things. And it's the whole. It's not a part. I'm about the whole. I'm not about a part. Some of the questions I have is, if we're so deficient at O line, why is everybody continually saying we need to draft wide receiver, we need to draft running back, we need to draft? You should be building your offensive line, right? So far, all we've done is signed two veteran players that were borderline journeymen, and we haven't upgraded at tackle. And to me, if our offensive line is so bad and our quarterback has just walked around and let it be known that he's just fed up with them, shouldn't we be fixing it?
Oh, 100%, and I think we will, but it's gonna be in the draft. I honestly think that, we'll have a couple more depth pieces come in and fight for, a position, or, hopefully at least maybe practice squad. But I honestly think that we will focus on it in the draft. Do I think that it's gonna be our number one pick? No, I do not, because at 27, I don't think there's going to be that many first round tackles or guards or centers left. Now, second round, I do believe the guard out of Syracuse, they've worked out that they really like, and for some reason I can't think of his name.
Was
Someone
it
will end up,
Bergeron or something like
yeah,
that? Yeah,
someone's gonna put it
yeah.
in the comments, but it was Bergeron, yeah. I honestly think that they might actually wait until third, fourth, or fifth to get that depth. There are some guys that will be taken in the seventh round that within a year or two can still start on one of these teams. This is a year that you have a couple of people that are kind of definites in the first round, and then it falls off. I think until fourth or fifth round is where you're going to find a lot of those pieces. So I honestly think that that's where we'll find, and I think we'll take a tackle, but I think it'll be a guard slash center, or more specifically a center, if we only take two offensive linemen in the draft.
John Herring says that we should trade down and get an extra second round pick. I agree with John. If there's not somebody at 27 that we absolutely love, trade down to later into the first round. If there's not somebody there, trade out of the first round and move to the second round and stockpile picks. We'll get
Right.
more quality players and we'll save money on the cap. But I still go back to the fact that we I think our quarterback probably threw more red zone interceptions than anybody else in the league,
I
but
think that's
we don't want to we never want to criticize him. And I'm not saying that he's not great. He's a great player, but he does
right.
deserve some of the blame.
Um, and I don't think anyone is not blaming him for some of it. But yes, I honestly think between him trying to make everything happen, not having a good run game in the red zone, and Josh feeling like it's all on his shoulders. And and we've all complained about it. Dorsey was a first year OC. He has to be able to get people open. So he needs to figure that out this offseason, and hopefully he's realizing it. I know from Dorsey's history, and all the way back from at the guy is the kind of guy that he is most self-critical. We saw him blow up in the booth when he didn't have something go his way at the end of the Miami game. He blew up. He is so, and he probably took the whole loss on himself. That is who he is. He's going to make himself better. This if there's nothing else that, he does, he will study everything to a T and make himself better this off season. And I can't wait to see it. And if I'm wrong, I will admit it next year at the end of the year that I was wrong because I said the same thing because we were all on this, the same thing with Dayball. And everyone after 2019 was fire him, fire him, fire him. And I'm like, you guys need to give him a chance. We're still one of the number one, or we were a top 10 offense, and Josh was only in the second year. So now it's goes into 2020, and statistically, Josh's best year ever, and we looked ridiculous. We were on fire the whole entire year. So I just think that we were ready to throw in the towel with him. I just
There's
wanted to put up. Zachary asked Jerry, "What do you think of Cody Mouch in the third round?"
Well, if you get him in the third, it'd be wonderful. I mean, it'd
I
be
think
great.
I
Do
think
I
he's
think he's
going
going
in
to
the
be there in
second.
the third? He's probably not in the third.
Yeah.
That's why I like to stockpile picks and move into the second if I have to, because I'll probably be in the higher end of the second round and have a chance to get a guy like him. I like him a lot. He's a big dude. He's athletic. He's kind of a throwback. He runs well. He's a great athlete. I think he could play guard and tackle. I like him at tackle where he is now, but no, he'd be a tremendous pickup for the Bills if they could get him. I don't think he'll be there in the third. If he is, that would be a wonderful pick. But I digress one minute before we go to something else. I will say this, Sarah. There's only one person who is allowed to publicly criticize Josh Allen. And when he does it, it's cute and it's about compassion. It's about competing. And we just all know how much he wants to win. And that's Stephon Diggs. He's the only one that's allowed to publicly criticize Josh. Nobody else is allowed to.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that.
I
I
know.
mean,
I'm just being
I've
silly.
I
I'm
know
being silly.
I've had issues with Joshua Patrick Allen at times, but our team as a whole was and I feel like ridiculous even saying this because we finished 13-3.
I
We were
know.
had one of the number one offenses. I think we were number
Please
two in the
continue.
entire league.
Yes.
Everything, but he had moments where he looked bad, and we all saw it. And yes, he was injured. There was reasons for that. The O-line was terrible. You know, our running backs couldn't, run for a first down if they tried. So it was an off year, but statistically we were still one of the best offenses in the
Yes.
NFL.
I truly believe it was a big part of what our issue was is we didn't have any identity offensively. I think we
And
just kind of grasped. I think we
yeah.
kind of grasped straws and we just kind of threw it against the wall and saw what stuck.
And I think that that is partially because Dorsey was doing this for the first time. He wasn't a first
Yeah.
year OC for the Bills, and I've said this, ad nauseum. He was a rookie OC. Period. He actually got an OC job for Appalachia State, probably 5-6 years ago ish. Um, and then he ended up getting brought up to Buffalo as the quarterback coach. So he actually never was the OC at the college. So he's never done it before, even at the collegiate level. So give him the year. I think that this year it's going to be different. He's going to have a lot of weapons, and I feel like a whole off season of knowing what these weapons are and knowing, okay, so we have this guy who can do this, and we have this guy that can do this. We have three different style running backs that we can do this. I feel like he is going to go into the season with a not a bigger playbook, a more specific playbook that he knows exactly what to use with everybody that is going to remain on the team. And I'm looking forward to it. And I think that our offense, especially if we get a true number two, and an upgrade at the slot position as well. And nothing against Sherfield or Hardy. I think that they'll both. I honestly think they'll both make the team. I'm just not quite sure. I think Hardy's more of the gadget play guy. Um, so I think it'll be fun to see what this is going to be next year. I think we've already upgraded at most of our positions. Um, Last week we had a bunch of questions that came in from Facebook and Twitter.
Yes, we
Uh, we
did.
d- we weren't able to get through them all. We actually got some more, so I'm going to pop up a couple. Ryan from Facebook says, "I love Morris, but if there's a better use of that cap, how much of a drop off would it be?" to cut him, or trade, I guess, and go to Bates as our center.
Uh, I have not. I've seen Bates a little bit, obviously, because of the Morris injuries he played. I think that there'd probably be a bigger locker room void than there would be on the field void. I don't think Bates would be a bad center as long as he kept. I mean, he got the reps. He practiced that way every week. He was there, and that's why I kind of tongue in cheek said what I said earlier today with them bringing in the Edwards guy from L.A. We've already got McGovern from Dallas. Now all of a sudden you kind of free some things up. Um, so I don't know. I mean, obviously Mitch Morse is a huge veteran presence. Those guys are hard to come by. I played next to one of the best centers, if not the best center in Buffalo Bills history, Kent Hull. Um, and it was a big deal playing next to a vet like that. Mitch is that kind of guy. So I think that leadership would probably what we missed more than anything. Obviously, he's still a quality player. I really, really like him. I hope it works out where he does play. But if we had to play Bates there, I think we'd be able to absorb that loss and be okay.
All right. So this one I'm gonna get in on this next question as well, but I want to hear your answer too. What would be your strongest criticism of Bean at this point, and what would be your strongest criticism of the coaching staff? We already kind of touched on offense, so
Um, you know,
let's
I, I,
let's go
I
head coaching and Bean at this point.
probably my biggest. I'll go Bean first. And I think because I had that when you said that first, I kind of had that on my mind. I would probably say right now, Bean's done a really, really good job of picking skill type positions. I'm a little bit concerned about our offensive line draft picks, and I'm a little bit concerned about our defensive front seven. I shouldn't say front seven, our D line draft picks. Some of those guys haven't quite panned out yet to what they should be. Um, obviously there's a ton of talk about Ed Oliver. The book is still out on Spencer Brown. We talk about his injury situation and stuff, so we'll see what happens there. So maybe their evaluation of the big guys. But other than that, I mean, I think Bean's done a wonderful job. I think he's managed the cap great, brought in very good veteran presence, and has done well at the other positions.
Right. I think with Bean for me, um, it's kind of down the same lines when it comes to what he's done well. I feel like we all want these big splashy players and these names. I feel like every year he consistently finds someone who can potentially upgrade a position that we're losing in free agency, and do it for an affordable price. I actually think he's been pretty brilliant with it this offseason. um Damian Harris was, I think his market value was like $7 million. And we got him for, don't quote me. I think it was like three, with the bonus and everything. I think it was 1 point something plus a bonus, like ridiculous, savings that we're getting there, and an upgrade at the position. Um, I honestly think that that's something that he's done really well within free agency. Yes, we're not going out and spending $20 million on our offensive tackle, which everyone wants. But then everyone, when it happens, everyone's like, well, where's the rest of the money to sign the 15 other players that we really need on this team, not just for OTAs and training camp, but actually need so that they're going to be on this team moving forward. My biggest criticism would also be the draft, but I think the draft all around. I don't feel like he's really hit. And you said specialty players. I actually think, that they don't really have a niche for that. I feel like we haven't really drafted, wide receivers. We haven't, drafted, early enough. I don't feel like they've really hit on anyone in our draft well, other than obviously Josh Edmonds was a hit. Um, I think Rousseau is getting there. I think he showed what he could be when Vaughn was playing last year. I think when Vaughn went out, the whole line kind of dissipated a little bit, the play. Um, so I think that they've hit on a few players, but I think overall that would probably be my biggest criticism of Bean.
Right, and I'm going to go at the Mafia cast. They bring up the fact that Bean's never taken an alignment in the first round, but he's taken Cody Ford in the second. Um, so there's some things that he's done there, and you can say what you will. He took Ed Oliver in the first round, and like I said, I have extensive knowledge of Ed Oliver because I we played him for 3 years at Tulsa, and I've seen the film, and we did very very well blocking Ed Oliver in college, and we don't have a bunch of offensive linemen from that line that are in the NFL. So I'm not saying Ed's not a good player. I'm just saying, is he worthy of where he was picked? I think that was a draft where there was a run on D lineman. We panicked a little bit and we took him when we took him. But, I think you're right. I mean, there's some things draft wise that maybe are a little bit iffy. I do believe he manages his cap very well. I do think overall, though, he is a good drafter of players. And I think he's done a good job of building this roster. Moving on to the coaches, I think it's two things. One is I think we're hard heads. We're a little bit set in our. I mean, and this is all coaches. Okay, I'm not telling on anybody, but a coach, a lot of them, especially guys that are in the league, believe that they can take anybody and coach them up. Right. Um, we do some things defensively, especially defensively. I'm not talking offensively. I'm talking defensively because that's what he is. Okay, he is a D coordinator at heart. We do some things and we stay in it and we never get out of it, even if it's not really working for us, and that's bothering to me. And the other thing is, and probably more than anything, and the first part is a little bit nitpickish, but the biggest thing to me is we play a style of defense that is like it's like playing blackjack, right? We are a percentages defense. If the dealer's showing 6 or less, we're staying, right? Because they're going to take a hit, they're going to take a hit and they're going to bust. We play defense like that all the time. And it's great for 99% of the times. But with 13 seconds left in an AFC divisional championship game,
Still too soon.
it's not good enough. And we have to be more aggressive, and we have to do some things
Yeah.
differently. So that's probably my biggest complaint is that we're a little bit set in our ways. We're really really good percent. That's why we win more games than we lose. But we tend to have issues sometimes winning the big one, right?
Right.
Because we just won't get out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's comfort or if it's being being a little arrogant, I guess, because it works all season. But I've said it, probably half dozen times. When it comes down to it, when it doesn't work, you don't want to try that out in in the postseason, because then it's one or done, one and done in the postseason. So um I hate when we go into the soft defenses and we're 10, 15 yards off the ball. It bugs the heck out of me. I understand that we're the bend don't break mentality, a lot, but I feel like we have the corners and we have the safeties to be able to press a little bit more, and instead of being so far off the ball. And it bugs me that um in this, especially once we get to the postseason. I don't really mind it during the season, but obviously, if you're going to run a defense, you want to have reps in a game of how you're running the defense. So I don't obviously want us to to run it one way during the season and then switch it up in the off season. But I definitely think that I think my biggest criticism is the with the coaching staff is the inability, excuse me, to change
Yeah,
and make adjustments, most importantly throughout the game. I think we were pretty good at it in the beginning of the season, but we really didn't need to make too many adjustments. First, 4 or 5 weeks of the season last year, I think they had one or two second half touchdowns against the defense. We were ridiculous coming out in the second half. For the first third of the season. I want to go back to that. Like, why were we able to make adjustments then, but as the season went on, you know, we didn't. People were making adjustments against us, and we were just looking kind of unimaginative. Sometimes we would get like the Minnesota game. We were out so far ahead, and I think Green Bay too. Green Bay we still won, but they came back and we started looking really bad in the second half. Minnesota was ridiculous what we allowed to happen. And we all knew that Minnesota was a second half team. Um, so why put ourselves in that situation where we're not making the right adjustments, to knowing that they're going to be making adjustments because they were down at half. So that's my biggest, criticism. I would say. Let me go to the next. All right. So this was the one from last week. I don't want to bore everybody who actually knows.
Hold on,
You
let me
know,
go. Let me get comfortable. I'm fixing it. I'm
Ah,
fix. Hold on.
um,
All right, go ahead.
so we're gonna change this up a little bit. So everyone has been talking about adding D hop, and everyone's in the beginning it was, oh, we can't afford D hop, and in a
For those
trade.
of you who are not into the brevity of said name, it's Mr. Hopkins from the Arizona
DeAndre
Cardinals.
Hopkins, yes.
DeAndre Hopkins, yes.
Yes. So basically, someone on Facebook, Cheryl on Facebook, she asked, can you explain contracts and signing bonuses and dead cap and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So, because everyone starts to make comments and people are making some wrong comments. And, I have to be like, no, that's not the case. No, that's not the case. So someone actually said that DeAndre's cap hit would be 30 plus $1 million if the Bills were to sign him. So I just want to explain quickly. The base salary is what comes over to us. If there is a roster bonus, that comes over to us as well. Signing bonus, and restructures stay with the team. The option, it depends on what the option is. But any signing bonus or any restructures, it becomes immediate dead cap. So the one thing about signing bonuses is it's a full amount broken up in the amount of years of the contract. So if it's a 4-year contract and it's $20 million, you're going to break it up $5 million a year. A roster bonus, the difference with that is a roster bonus can be different every year. So you can have a $1 million roster bonus one year. The next year you can have a $5 million roster bonus. If they are on the team on said day of the following NFL year, they will get paid that money. And if you let them go, it becomes dead cap. So the important thing about dead cap is dead cap doesn't follow the player. It stays with the team that they're on. So if we're trading for somebody, and so DeAndre Hopkins, what we would be paying him is the $19.45 million this year and $14.9 million next year. Now, that doesn't mean that that's what it has to be. If we want to offer a third round pick, knowing that right now what they're kind of saying is a fifth round pick for him. We could offer a third round if they want to keep some of the contract. DeAndre's already said that he's willing to renegotiate his contract. So there's a lot of things we can do. Now we can restructure his contract, turn it into a signing bonus, which would space it. The signing bonus would be spaced over the years of the contract. We could add void years. So void years are basically years that he's not playing, but that signing bonus would be split over those years. So even though he's not with us, we would be paying the signing bonus over those years. If we cut somebody, you can also do or trade. You can do a pre-June or a post-June. If you do post-June, the basically the dead cap is split over the this year and next year. So what if you have 2 or 3 years left on the contract, you would pay whatever the dead cap is for this year, and then everything becomes due next year. If you do post June, if you do pre June, the everything is due immediately that this season if they're cut within the season or traded within the season. So those are the two designations. Again, I don't want to bore everybody. We can go into so many different little nuances of what it can mean, but for those people who get interested in wanting to know, like we've talked about uh Cooper Cup. And someone was like, let's trade for Cooper Cup. I'm like, go to his contract and see what his contract looks like. At least you can go on to over the cap or Sport Track and kind of see what we're looking at. But again, it's not the cap hit the cap hit that they have is not what it would be the trading team. It, some of that is going to go with the team that is trading them, is letting them go. Now, for our players, every time we restructure one of our players and convert some of their base salary to a signing bonus, we are adding money and pushing it down the road. Once they are let go, if we let them go with 2 or 3 years left on their contract, sometimes even, one year on their contract, that money is going to be due eventually. So we're just kicking the can down the road. So sometimes it's worth it because every year the salary cap goes up. So it's, one of those things where you're hoping and praying that it goes up more than what we're going to owe in dead cap. But that's why when everyone was talking about Diggs wanting to be traded, he had a $45 million dead cap hit if he was going to be traded. Us restructuring him increased that even more. Diggs isn't going anywhere.
And the other real important number of contract talks is no matter how much money anybody makes, half of it goes to the government. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah, it's not half. We joke about
Shoot.
that. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
okay, the government, yes. I thought you were referring to what Poirier was saying
Yeah,
about
I was
New
I
York
was
State.
well, no, it's yeah, well, you throw New York State and the federal government in, it's
Yeah, no,
yes.
together. Together. That's what I'm
It's
saying. Yes,
but
together.
at the time, now I'm sure it's the same way. At the time when I was playing, the only state in the union that had a higher tax rate than New York State was Alaska. If you can believe that. So that's the
Yeah.
only state that had a higher tax rate.
Yeah. All
Gotta
right. So
love it.
let's go to the next question. And sorry for those of you that I bored. um Let's see. Jim from Twitter said, "What are your thoughts on the value for Ed Oliver trade, and what about Judy or Hopkins?" Obviously, this was asked before the whole Hopkins hype train
I think you got
started.
to give. The problem is you should get a first round pick for Ed Oliver. If
Yeah,
you move Ed, you should get a one.
it's
Are you
not
going to
gonna
get a one? No, it's not going to happen because
happen.
why? Well, I'll just wait a year and I'll get Ed for not giving. I'll make a run at him without giving up a draft pick because you're not going to re-sign him after 5. So, yes, I if you were to trade Ed Oliver, I think hopefully you got to demand at least a 2 because I don't think you're going to get a 1, which is crazy. Because what was he, 13th overall or something like that?
Yeah, but I mean,
Um,
he hasn't lived up to it. I think
right.
with I personally think with Ed, there was someone from the Bears actually posted yesterday, a tweet about, do you think that we would be able to get Ed Oliver by swapping firsts and maybe throwing in a fourth to make it happen? And everyone's like, is he freaking nuts? And I'm like, guys, shut up, because hopefully,
So we'll get the
hopefully
ninth over. No, wait a second. We get the
the
ninth
ninth,
overall
and they
pick,
get the 27th, and then they're
and
going
they
to
get
throw in a fourth.
27th, and they're going to throw in a fourth.
And we
Can we
get $10
do?
million off our
Can
books.
we?
Yeah.
Yes. Can we please do that?
Yeah, I was like, he's hired as GM for a day, please,
Right. Right.
of, Chicago's
Right.
GM. I replied back jokingly, but obviously I don't think, and I replied back jokingly, like, Ed Oliver is such an amazing, imagine getting a first round pick for $10 million a year, who's gonna,
Right.
shore up your defense. Yeah. um but hey, Mafia, how do you feel about JSN at 9? So,
Right.
yeah, if it was to happen, holy crap, not going to happen. I think realistically, we would probably accept a fourth, knowing that it's going to take $10 million off our
Right. And
books.
Daniel says, Oliver was ninth overall with 1 year left on his contract. No chance you get a 1 or a 2 for him. You would, be lucky to get a third. And I think he's right. I mean, nobody's just going to give stuff away, but um, it's yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Can we do that, please? Can we
yeah.
please go ahead and do that?
I thought it was pretty hilarious, but I had a little fun with it yesterday. Um, so Judy and Hopkins, I think Judy, because he's younger and he's still on his rookie deal, he probably can get a second or a third. I think when they were asking for a first and a player, it's not going to happen. I think Hopkins is. I think before the Cooks trade, it probably would have been third or fourth. Or third and fourth in a player, something like that. I think after the Cooks trade, especially because they also took on some of that contract, so to only get a fifth and a sixth, and then taking on some of that contract as well, really pushed the trade market down, I think. So I think Hopkins is going to probably get a fourth or a fifth. And that's, I think, a third or fourth only if they take on some of that contract.
But,
Um,
but the thing about Judy is that the Broncos are in the same kind of boat as us as far as wanting a lot of picks. Because I think the Broncos, if I remember correctly, traded up to get him and gave up a king's ransom to get to that spot.
Yeah, you
Um,
mentioned that last week. I
yeah,
don't really know, but at the same time, like he was injured one year. He hasn't had a quarterback, a good quarterback, to throw to him. Last year, yes, they brought in Wilson, but then, they had a mess on on the entire offense. So, I honestly think that, you know, they want picks at this point. So, but I don't necessarily think it has to be a high pick, but they also want a quality player. So I think that you could trade a player. I'm not saying that they would be interested in Oliver. Um, and he's right now one of the players that, I'd be willing to kind of let go. Boogie Basham today made a comment. We're all looking at these different tweets and IG posts and stuff. Um, he could be going through something completely different, but we're looking at it as oh, he's got to be talking about the Bills or something. Maybe that maybe there's something there where he might be out the door.
think about this, okay? And this going back to the Jerry Judy situation. Right now, at this point in his career, he's accumulated 1,453 yards on 97 receptions. He's been targeted 185 times in his career, but has only scored 4 touchdowns, with only one of those coming after his rookie season. And if you round out his statistics, he has a whopping 15 drops and 3 fumbles. That's what you're going to go ahead and make a bunch of trades for. Do I think he could get better with a change of scenery? Of course I could. I think he
Yeah.
would. And as you stated, I mean, Josh is not the quarterback that they've had in Denver. But still, I mean, you've got to really watch. I mean, there's names and then there's production, and you got to really look at production. I personally like Hopkins more than
Oh,
any
well,
other
of
receiver
course.
to
I mean,
bring in. That's
Hopkins
my deal.
Hopkins is, not only the name, he has he has the stats to go with it. Judy, I'm just going to say, in his defense, he hasn't had that quarterback play
Right.
where he really needs to. And again, one season he was out for 6 or 7 games. So of course his stats weren't up there. But the fact of the matter is I think it was 2020 or 2021. He had a really good season, um, and he had a trash quarterback, throwing to him. So I think that he could be something special. But again, how many teams want to throw the kitchen sink at a could be? So there's that potential there. But again, how much are you going to give for potential? You know what you're getting. That's the same thing with the draft. You're giving up your first round pick to go after, one of these special players. We're talking about, we've been talking about Bijan or taking a wide receiver. Well, if they don't pan out, then it's you kind of wasted that pick in, everyone's eyes. It's a wasted pick. So we know what DeAndre Hopkins is. We don't quite know how good Judy can be. But I actually think that as much as I want Judy, I think Claypool would actually be a little bit more of an interesting pick because it would be for um, basically 1 year, and
No, I
not.
agree. I agree with you. The only reason people are riding with Judy is because he went to Alabama. Period. End of discussion. They're still looking at his college career. He hasn't been a very good pro. I think Claypool is a very good receiver. I would take him over Judy as well.
Yeah, and I think that it's still in a very affordable um, wide receiver. I don't think that Chicago needs them. It could be a one for one. We give them Oliver and they give us Claypool type thing, which in the end it still helps us because we're getting that $10 million off the books. So um,
My man John is riding for Bijan Robinson now.
I
My
love
man,
I love I'm still telling you Bijan's not going to be there at 27, But if he is, I 100% believe you still have to go for him. I do. I think that he is, everyone's using the new token word. He's a generational running back. I honestly think though he is. And nowadays with the running back, especially in the first round, you're getting him for the first 5 years. Now, with that being said, I think a lot of these running backs come third or fourth year are starting to get frustrated with, their production versus what they're getting paid. Austin Eckler's going through it right now.
I will say this, Sarah. This is one thing I will say about the whole running back situation. If you do pick one and you keep him 5 years and then let him move, I mean, what is the highest pay, or what is Saquon getting for the franchise tag? Is he even getting 10?
I think for running backs it was 9 this
Yeah,
year.
you're not even, if this guy's is the dynamic player that you say he is at that position, and I say at that position now demands a lot less money, but you've got a very highly productive player making under. This is the top contract in the league, under $9 million. So, yeah, I mean that's doable. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, and we just with just signing Harris and having the players we have with Cook last year, are we willing to burn 27 on a running back when we have so many other needs?
Yeah. And I have a lot of hate coming in the comments about Claypool. I'm just going to say one thing. A lot of people are saying that, either Claypool sucks or they're not sure about Claypool. The one thing I will say about him is he has not had a quarterback
No, he
throwing to
hasn't.
him. So he's still put up pretty good numbers.
Well, when he had
Now,
Big Ben, when he had Roethlisberger, he put up good numbers.
yeah, that was his rookie year, I believe, and that
Yeah,
was only his rookie year. So, I honestly think that it's worth a discussion. But I know we're all on the D Hop train, so or D Hop watch.
every
So,
time you say D Hop, I think of the Big Lebowski. I think of Hopkins, D Hop. If you're into that whole, if you're not into that whole brevity thing, it just keeps you bringing back to the Big Lebowski. I'm
all
sorry.
right. So, no, it's funny. I don't think I've ever seen that, to be honest with you. I don't know.
You've never
I
seen the
don't
Big
think so.
Lebowski? Oh
I
my
don't think so.
gosh!
All
There you
right.
go.
So
That's your homework for the
that's
week.
my homework.
Watch the Big Lebowski.
I've been watching so much streaming so much. I've been on Game of Thrones lately. So
Oh really?
yeah, trying to get that out of the way because I was one of the people that never watched it. Keith from Facebook said, "What do you feel is our biggest need this offseason in either free agency or the draft at this point?" Um, so with some of the moves that we've made, are you still on the offensive line, or do you still feel like we need a wide receiver? What do you feel is our biggest need?
Our biggest need is we better find somebody up the middle of our defense, whether that's a linebacker or that's a quality defensive lineman. And so that would lead me to say that we need a linebacker, and then we're going to have to fill in some gaps as far as the defensive secondary goes. I still think they're going to have to find safeties. I'm not convinced that Micah is going to be there, and if he is,
What do you
um,
mean?
we're coming back from a neck injury, and what
Yeah.
else?
You don't think that he plays after the fusion?
Well, first of all,
I feel like that's
that
why
is
Poyer came back was because so he can play with Micah.
look, look, playing playing the way you have played and staying on the field are three different things. I'm happy he's back, but we're talking about a cervical fusion. This isn't anything to mess with. The last guy that I knew that had a cervical fusion and tried to come back and quickly had difficulties and retired was Chris Spielman. Lived that whole thing. I hope he can play, and I hope he can play highly effective football. That is a tough deal. And then, of course, you got Jordan, who is a great player. It's awesome that he's back, especially at the salary that he's back for. But he's been incredibly dinged up lately. So
Yeah,
they
he says
better
he's
find
good.
some.
We're gonna believe it.
They better find they better find some help there too, as far as backups go. But that's
Yeah.
I think there, and then I would like to find another. I'd find a defensive lineman, linebacker, help at safety, and as a backup role, and then offensive
So
line
you're
is
saying
next.
all defense at this point, which is all of Bill's Mafia at this point is going up in arms and screaming at the top of their lungs because we want offense this year. So
Exactly.
I think it's a
And that's why you didn't win a divisional championship game, because with 13 seconds left,
well, that
you
was
didn't get
last
it
year. We're
done.
not going to go that far back.
You got to play
Okay.
defense. You got to play defense. You got to
Um,
stop people from scoring.
Now I'm gonna say I obviously think that it's twofold. I think right now we haven't signed Hopkins, so I still think we need a wide receiver, but I also do believe that we need a linebacker. Um, and I do believe we need a defensive tackle, because I'm betting on the fact that we're not going to have Oliver. And even if we do, I feel like we need to draft his replacement regardless. The question for me is, it depends on who's there at 27, because to me most of these linebackers aren't first round talent. I know everyone has Jack Campbell and Trenton Simpson. I fear that we're reaching a little bit to get them off the board. I have done probably 300 mock drafts. I've looked at everybody's mock drafts. I've went through it like crazy. I don't feel like many people have them going anywhere near the first. So I'm concerned trying to use our first round pick on one of them. Um, Now, if we have a D tackle that's in the first round that falls, I'm on board with saying, "Hey, we need to take a defensive player in the first round." Um, but I would like us to use that. I really would like us to use that pick on either a wide receiver. The only other person on the offense that I would say take the chance is Bijan, obviously, which, again, probably pisses off a lot of people. I know one person put in the comments, yes, you take a generational talent for what, 10 carries a game. Um, we need to understand that, Josh is getting a little bit older. He turns, I think, 26 in a few weeks. He is, granted that's still young, but we're not going to want him to run the same way as he starts to get older. Um, I also want to protect our $250 million man. So I feel like if we could have somebody come in and be that guy and work out, you got to do it. I only think the only stretch of a first round pick I would not mind to do is, again, Darnell Washington. I know a lot of people have him going in the second. So if that's the case and you're set on him being your guy, trade back. If I don't think that there's a lot of wide receivers that are going to be there in the first round at 27 that are still first round talent. If that's the case, trade back. And get more picks. So I actually think that in the end we will probably not pick at 27, more so than we will. So I actually think that we do need quite a few pieces. I think we need a safety. Again, don't know how long. Micah's got 1 year left. Poyer he has a 2-year contract, but he might not play both years. He even said that in his press conference. So we need depth regardless, and someone to come in when they're gone. But I would prefer we get a linebacker in free agency, and not try to rely on a draft pick, on an early draft pick, um, more so. So I honestly think that a vet coming in is going to be better, and then we have the depth with our current linebackers that we have. I don't think that Dotson, or Bernard are starters, even if they want to say that they are. So I think we go out and get a veteran, and we're also going to need defensive end. As much as people are saying stay away from offense, stay away from defense, stay away from defense. We don't know when Vaughn's going to be back. Boogie Basham has not been who we wanted him to be. We have not re-signed Shaq Lawson, so we have those issues that we have right now. So
Those
we'll
are all
see.
good. But I
All
will say
right.
it again, and I will say it every week. Big people rule the world, and they need some
Yeah.
linemen on both sides of the
So
ball.
so Dan Freddy, who's always on Twitter, so keeps on tweeting out draft the fat guys. So Um, I don't care if we drafting them or if we're picking them up in free agency, but I do think we need to shore up both lines.
I say we convince Luke Kuechly to come out of retirement to be our middle linebacker,
No,
and
no.
then we draft
There's
some other
so
players.
we can have Miles Jack. There's so many people right now that are still free agents. We do not need anybody coming out of retirement to play in those positions. All right, so we'll have a couple more questions next week as well. Do you want to take us out there, Jerry?
We will. Awesome show. Line to Gain is now the new name of our show. Used to be Three Man Rush. Now it is Line to Gain. We're back on Thursday night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Absolutely awesome show. Sarah's going to hit y'all up again, as always, on Facebook, on Twitter. We'll answer your questions in the second part of the show. We'll talk more free agency next week. We'll get a little bit deeper, maybe into the draft
Yes.
and maybe look into
Book my
theory
flights.
and and what they might be doing. Sarah will be heading to Kansas City. I might be there. I might not. It all depends on A, what work says, and B, kind of how I feel. So we'll see how that goes. But we appreciate you to listening and watching as always. Hit the like button, smash the
Yes.
subscribe button. Man, we love when you do that. It helps us out, lets us know you care. We know that we got a bunch of people watching, and we appreciate you so much taking the time to listen to us here on Thursdays on the Buffalo Rumblings Networks. Again, she's Sarah Larson. I'm the Big O Jerry Ostrowski. This has been the Line to Gain show on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. As always, one love and go Bills.
Go Bills.